Okay guys, in this video I'm going to make a step-by-step, very slow and very precise methodology for using CLINE to create websites. A lot of people are asking me to go through this for beginners, so that is exactly what I am going to do. So we're going to be talking about a few different things. So Visual Studio Code, path variables, tech stacks, and anything else that I think of later as well. So these are kind of the more complicated things that people have to understand in order to actually do what I showed in a recent video. So first of all, let's talk about Visual Studio Code. What Visual Studio Code is it's effectively a file explorer, right? But it lets you see inside the code. So if I open, let's say my download folder, right? File, open folder, downloads, select folder. It's the same thing as you have here, right, in your download folder. But it's inside, you're like inside it, inside the code and inside the kind of computer, right? If that makes sense. So what we use Visual Studio Code for is building projects and building folders, right? If you think of a website as a folder, this might start to make more sense. So if I go on Cheese Encyclopedia, all this is it's a folder that is running on a machine somewhere, right? Literally, that's all it is. That's all this website is. It's running on Vercel. You don't have to use Vercel. There are many different options, but it's effectively just a folder full of code that is running on someone else's computer. But what we do is we build the project first on Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let's talk about tech stacks just before we move on. So one of the first things you have to choose is what tech stack are you going to use, right? So a lot of people talk about PHP, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript just on their own. This is one way to do it. I haven't personally done this yet because I'm using something called Next.js. Next.js is built on JavaScript. It's like a JavaScript library. Most kind of projects run on Next.js, I would say. Um, yeah, I don't know what the percentage is, but I know that a hell of a lot of the internet runs on Next.js. Next.js was built from React or built on top of React, which is a JavaScript framework. The reason you have to decide on like what what you're going to do now is because you when you build the project, you kind of have to understand what you're building. So I recommend Next.js. Okay, you don't have to use Next.js. You could also use Python with Flask, for example. But yeah, I would say Next.js is probably the best option, and that's what I go with personally. And then the final thing are path variables, but then also installs. So we need to install some requirements, right? So one of those requirements is Node.js, which is what Next.js runs in for the backend, right? It's Node.js. So just go on Google and write Node.js, and then download and install this, okay? But then if you're on Windows, then most likely you will then have to add this to path. What that means is if you search for Node.js, and you right click it and you open file location and you right click here and you copy address as text and then you press the Windows button, write environment variables or just environment, then click on environment variables, go to path, double click path, press new and then paste this, right? You can see it's already here. So it's already here because I've already added it to path, okay? The reason you have to do this is because A, Windows is bad and you shouldn't use Windows as a developer, and B, basically what you're doing is you're giving Windows the ability to run Node.js, and it will not work unless you do that. Okay, so this is one thing that people get confused by. That's pretty much the only dependency that I can think of. If you were using Flask and Python, just go on Google, Python download Python, and then remember to add it to environment variables. In fact, if I go on my environment variables, because I've used Python before, you'll see probably Python will be here somewhere. There it is, Python 3.112. So you need to ensure that you do that, right? I haven't don't open Visual Studio Code yet. Just do all of that first, right? So we've chosen our tech stack. I'm going to be using Next.js. You guys can use whatever the hell you want. Now we can go ahead and download Visual Studio Code. So go on Google, type Visual Studio Code. It's open source, it's free, so just press download here. Download it for Windows, and then press the Windows key, write Visual, right-click it, run it as administrator. Okay, so we're now inside Visual Studio Code. One of the first things we have to do is we have to install CLINE. So on the side here, just go to Extensions, and then write CLINE, and then click it, and then install it, right? And then this little thing will pop up on the side here. Once this little thing pops up on the side here, you can click Settings. I'm using Anthropic. I would highly recommend using Anthropic. So Anthropic, put your Anthropic key, choose the model. I'm using this one. You can choose whichever model you want. And then I have these special instructions in a prompt that I'll leave in the description of this video. So then you can press Done here. And then all you want to do is where it says Auto Approve here, just click this button. And then we have these 4 checked, right? Execute save commands, edit files, read files and directories, auto approve. Max requests 100, right? These are my recommended settings, and then also enable notifications. You then want to click this arrow down, right? And the first thing that I like to do is I like to create the Next.js project, okay? Now you won't need to do this for Python or for PHP and CSS, etc., but you will for things like Vite and everything else. So what you do is you click these 3 buttons here, click Terminal, New Terminal, okay? And then I highly recommend, if you don't know what you're doing here, go to ChatGPT, the free version, and just say, give me a command to make a Next.js project. And then I'm just going to give it a specific Next.js version. The reason I do this, I specifically say 14.2.3, okay? For the same reason that I put Next.js 15 here. Anthropic knows the documentation for 14.2.23 or whatever the fuck the version is. It doesn't know the documentation for Next.js 15. So by keeping it at a version that it knows and understands, it's much less likely to break. Okay. Again, this won't be an issue with these ones because apparently they don't make big changes very, very often. So you can see here we now have this command here. What you can do is you can change this to whatever you want. So let's say Rolls-Royce website, and then highlight it, Control-C to copy it. And then the first thing I like to do is I like to create my project and then just press enter, okay? Don't worry about any of these settings, it's fine. These are just the standard settings, so CLINE will know that you have these settings basically. So now what we've just done is what I explained before. We have created the folder, right? So if I go on, I think it's on this folder here, you'll see somewhere here, Rolls-Royce website. We now have this folder, right? So that is what I've just done. I've just created this folder. So what we can do now is we can open folder. So I just clicked on the Explorer here. So I went off CLINE and went on the Explorer, open folder, and then we look for Rolls-Royce website, select folder, press yes, I trust these authors. And now when we go back to CLINE, right, we're inside. Sorry, my pause, unpause button isn't working on my recorder for some reason. So we are now inside this project, okay? So the folder is open, which means CLINE is also inside this project. Okay, so for example, if I say, can you read the files inside this project first? And then press plan, right, just so it doesn't do anything. And it will read the files inside Rolls-Royce website. So you can see it's reading those exact files. There it is. There's page.tsx. So it's just reading, and it'll understand that it's inside a boilerplate project. So we're now at the point where we can literally just feed a prompt to this, and it will start prompting. Okay, so the prompt We won't use this one. We'll just use the easy service-based website one. I'm not going to be building this website today. If you want to see a video of me building one of these websites, you can check out this video from yesterday or 2 days ago. I think it was this one. Yeah, it was this one. So this website, this video here is everything that you need to if you want to go through the making process, okay? But people were asking me to make like a beginner video. Okay, so it's now read all the files, and I'm going to paste the prompt, right? So you can find this prompt in the description of this video alongside the special instructions. I'm not going to go into the prompt in this video. So I'm going to keep it on plan, and I'm going to press enter here. And we'll just kind of see what happens. Okay, so there are no image. This is just from my prompt. Okay, basically I said here that you're inside. You have images inside public/images, and it says it doesn't exist yet. Okay, so what we can actually do is I'm just going to go to the Explorer, and I'm going to press new, and I'm going to say public, right, new folder, and then press new again and write images. This is where the images will go for the project, right? So let me just grab the images for this project so I can show you what I mean. You'd want to rename these images, but I'm not going to do that right now. Why is this not? Why can I not drag this? Okay, there we go. Perfect. So now we'll go back to CLINE and we'll say, I have added the images, please continue. And now it should read those images. There we go. And now it's going to create the site architecture, etc. And then literally in about 20 seconds, I'm just going to press this act button here. And then you don't need to do anything else. All of the coding, everything will be done for you. Now, I will continue the series if people enjoyed this. I will talk about how to add forms. I will talk about how to add, whatever else that you guys asked me for, and I'll really go into this process in a lot more detail. So there are forms, there's authentication, there's Supabase, database, all that good stuff that I could talk about. So let me know if people want to see that. I hope this video was helpful. If you're watching all the way to the end of this video, you're an absolute legend, and I'll see you very, very soon with some more content. Peace out. My pause button doesn't work, so I have to press stop recording.